and welcome to the Trade, are we on air? Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee. It's Wednesday, June 3rd. I'm Councilwoman Hahn, joined by Councilmember LeBon.
Good morning.
I just got a phone call from Councilmember Rosendahl, who is in gridlock on the 10 at La Cienega. So he said he would get here as soon as possible.
Tell him to get off and go up to Washington. Washington has good flow. Yeah, there's the metro. And you have to transfer.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and start, though?
Okay. Under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the First Amendment to the contract with Fentress Architects. This is for architectural engineering, planning, and design services for the LAX development program at LAX. The First Amendment would extend the existing contract term of 3 years by an additional 4 years to expire on May 27, 2015, and would increase the existing maximum compensation amount by $51.2 million for a total contract amount of $92.7 million. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of this contract amendment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. What do you have to say for yourselves?
Good morning. Roger Johnson,
Hi,
Deputy
Roger.
Executive Director, Los Angeles World Airports. This contract amendment that's before you was contemplated when we initially went out and contracted Fentress.
Okay.
As our first action when we came before this council, actually before, we did not have enough definition of exactly what we were going to do. In fact, if you recall, when we first negotiated a contract, we were going to build a midfield satellite. And through the planning process and through the visioning process, we are back to the Bradley West project. So when the first contract was issued, we had enough information to begin programming of the entire airport modernization program, as well as the design documents for the concourse extensions. We're back now because we finished the programming and the planning for the core of the Tom Bradley West project, and we are here today to ask for the funding to complete the design as well as the construction administration and services through construction for the remainder of the project.
The original contract expires in May of 2011. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, we usually are chastising you for bringing us stuff after the fact or right at the wire. This is like 2 years before it expires. So, what's the thinking on bringing it back to us for this amendment? 2 years?
We need the money.
Okay.
Primarily is we need the money to complete the design. Again, when we entered into the contract, initially it was contemplated that this contract could run as long as 10 years.
Okay.
So,
Well, speaking of money, how are we paying for this?
we have not yet completed in total the financial plan, but we are paying for it with in primarily 3 different ways. We're paying for it with bond funds, which we've already gone out once for some bond funding. We're paying for it with airport revenue, and we will be paying for it with passenger facility charges. So
Right.
it'll be a combination of those 3.
When we were back in Washington, D.C. Recently, we met with the IATA and we were talking about the modernization. They had some issues and expressed some concerns about the cost of this. How's that going with that organization? How's the dialogue, discussion? We talked to them about increasing the passenger facility fees. How's there was a sense that previously there wasn't as good as communication as we would hope for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the airline industry, IATA is an industry association that sometimes speaks for whichever members speak the loudest, I guess. We have put together we have a fairly robust partnering plan where we are working with the Tom Bradley carriers, and in fact, they have a group called Avair Pros, which is a company that basically represents the carriers in the Tom Bradley terminal. They have an architect who is embedded into our team that participates in all of the design reviews, all the planning. I mean, he's literally sitting in our offices working with us on a daily basis. So I think we've got a very strong working relationship with the international
I would
carriers.
just encourage you to really keep that up.
Yes,
and,
we are.
Really reach out on a regular basis. So how is it going with the airlines to talk about increasing this passenger facility fee?
Well, obviously, the airlines are not in favor of either IATA or ATA, the Air Transport Association, which is the American air carriers. With the airline industry in the condition it's in right now, they're opposed to anything that would increase the price of a ticket by even a few dollars. So, but I do, and I don't know if Mike Molina is here. Mike may be able to answer that question a little bit better than I can.
Mr. Molina, because I really didn't sense that when we were back there that they were completely opposed to this.
Mike Molina, Director of External Affairs. IATA actually has a more of an open attitude relative to the passenger facility charge because they equate it to other types of facility charges they have seen, most especially in Canada, where it has helped to construct airports. They have a much more open attitude than ATA does.
Okay.
Where the PFC is currently is that the FAA reauthorization bill is going through Congress. The House side has passed its version that takes the PFC from $4.50 to $7, and now we're working on a Senate strategy that hopefully will be influenced by the new administration now that we have an FAA administrator, and the Department of Transportation is taking a closer eye at this whole reauthorization
And wasn't there a
process.
sense that if it was just one airport that was actually going through a modernization upgrade as opposed to just universally passengers were okay with that? Didn't we have a conversation that if passengers knew that their increase in their ticket was going specifically for that airport, that they were much more willing to.
Correct.
They weren't opposed to it.
And that is why we're.
Makes sense what I just said?
Yeah, it does make sense. The PFC process is that each airport applies for PFCs.
Right.
It's not a universal tax, if you want to use the word tax.
Don't use that word.
However, there is discussion of one-offs, for example, so that there is a possibility that larger airports in the country, for example, who are going through construction projects can band together and look for some kind of a plan B in the PFC process. We're still hoping, though, that the Senate sees the light and moves ahead with a significant increase like the House side did.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. LaBonge.
Yeah, how many airport architects are there on L.A. World Airports payroll, Department of Airports payroll?
How many
Architects.
architectural firms?
No,
or
architects.
architects. What do we have? 2 architects on our payroll?
On staff at LAX, there are 2.
Two, so about 98% of all your work is done by outside firms.
That's correct.
And is there a solid wall between those who are there? Because $41 million for just paper, that's what it is, right? This is not steel and mortar, it's paper.
That's correct. It's
paper.
design.
I got it. So, and I'm okay with it, but that's a lot of money. $41 million before you get to build your house. That's a lot of money.
We what I can tell you is based on the estimate of the construction costs, we have really negotiated strongly with the architectural firm to bring the design costs down below the industry average, or on the low end of the industry average for design costs. It's $1 billion project, so the design fees are proportional to the size of the project.
Right.
So,
I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes we have 19 architects, and then we go out and get other architects to architect our architects.
To address your question as far as a wall, the answer to that is no. One of the architects happens to be sitting right here, Mike Doucette, and Mike is the project manager for the Tom Bradley Modernization Project. So he is supervising and overseeing the work being done by Fentress and the Fentress team on the design.
Right. And so you only got one other architect out there. You're one.
One other architect, Dylan Wright.
Not 2 out there, just you and one other.
That's correct.
Just me and
All
one
right.
other.
Okay. Because when he said one off, I was trying to understand that term that Mr. Molina said, but now I got it. Okay. Ms. Hahn?
Yes. So basically, you, as you said, when you started this with Fentress, you weren't exactly sure what the scope was going to be. Now you have a better sense, and you're right. I mean, I think Mr. LaBonge brings up a great point. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And what can you tell us exactly that you discovered in terms of the scope that would warrant this large of an increase.
All right, I'm not sure I'd characterize it as a discovery, but go ahead, Mike.
Mike Doucette with
Yeah.
Los Angeles World Airports. To further Roger's point, when we came through with the first contract,
Right.
we knew enough about the concourses themselves, the areas where you walk out and sit and wait for the plane.
Right.
That those are pretty straightforward. And when we brought the first contract forward, it was for design services all the way through construction for that, as well as to get a general sense of the design. And actually, we've got a visioning book for you to show you that process to better understand what this central core building would be. The first contract, like I said, was to get through construction on the concourses and to figure out what the overall vision for the airport was going to be. We knew that we would be coming back once we had a better understanding of what we refer to as the core, the significant passenger processing component of the building to be, which is roughly the same size in terms of area and cost to build the concourses themselves for the design services for that. So in a sense, we came to you for only the concourses for the design dollars to get through construction with the first contract. The second contract was to take care of the actual passenger processing, the new facilities for concessions, the FIS processing facilities, and other things.
I think if I could maybe give an example, as you know, because I know you both have flown out of the Tom Bradley Terminal, our customs immigration facilities are woefully inadequate. When you come in, when there's a lot of flights, there's no room down.
Right, we knew all this.
Yeah.
This is not new information.
No, but what we didn't know was how big it had to be. So, we had to do a lot of studying and a lot of design and planning on how many customs and immigration counter, primary inspection counters we needed. Where were passengers going to get off their planes? Were they going to go down into another tunnel to access customs and immigration? Were we going to move the sterile corridor? How many bag claim devices did we need? How much concessions area do we need in the core building itself?
Right.
So,
And
we were
what's your
doing
point?
all of that. Well, that was all stuff that had to be determined and programmed
After the first contract.
after the first contract before we could sit down and say, okay, now design a building that has all of these in it. So that was what we discovered, I guess, for to answer your question.
All right.
Discovered.
Mike, can you explain this any better?
I'm sorry.
You got it? Yeah. Okay.
It's like building a house. You bring in your architect, and you come up with the general vision of what you want. You look at the design and say, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Then you need the architect to really help you with, all right, now instead of looking at the big picture, where's the master bedroom going to be, and how does that fit with the walk-in closet, and where does the master bath, and all those little details that go in with the second phase of working with your architect and coming up with your dream house. We had the dream. Now we have to work at making the inside, making the rest of it the dream house that we want for the next 50 years.
Okay, you got
And
it.
the other thing, too, I would say this is what I was thinking more, and I believe this is to be true. When you walk across the bridge between City Hall East and City Hall, all of a sudden you get pillars in the middle of it.
Right.
The original design was not to have pillars in it, but there was a mistake made, and they had those pillars on the far side of City Hall East. What you're saying is the expertise of these teams of people is to look to every place to make sure that what is done, it's done without all of a sudden you have a corridor that goes to an unconnected space, to do the smartest thinking at the time, to move the most people with baggage, with all the new sterile areas that you speak of, and you're going to hold them accountable for, but you've got to work it through a process, and it costs that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we're doing today is extending the contract term by 4 years to 2015, and we're increasing the compensation by $50 million.
That's correct. That's what we're asking for.
Okay.
I move.
All right, we got a public comment, Arnold
Okay,
Sachs.
just one quick question there. These workers who are the architects, are they local or are they out of the region?
Well, go ahead, Mike.
The majority of them are local. The main design architect is based in Denver, Colorado.
Right.
The majority of the subcontractors and HNTB Corporation, who's also in association with Fentress, is local.
Where's their offices in Southern California?
Across the street from Library Tower.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So let me just ask one more question. At the end of this 4 years, what can we see?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know the sergeant here. You're out of line there, okay? You're out of line.
At the end of this 4 years, what you will see is the new Tom Bradley International Terminal. It will be completed. The new
With how many
concourses.
new gates?
There will be a total of 19 gates.
There'll be 9 A380 positions operational at the end of this 4 years.
Okay. Okay, Arnold Sachs.
Good morning. So this article in the Daily Breeze from 422, where LAX project gets additional $51 million, $51.2 million for Fentress to revise the contracts in May 2015, is different $51 million than you're authorizing today. If the Airport Commission already authorized $51 million, why come here? And building a house, I'm sorry, Mike, but usually when you build a house, you have a lot size planned. So you have a pretty good idea where your house is going to be, so then you can decide where the room is. So far, the trumpeting by Councilman Rosendahl, and too bad he's not here regarding this airport contract, regarding the expansion of LAWA and the new construction, was all about revamping Tom Bradley and building a midfield concourse. In 4 more years, when you have the Tom Bradley terminal completed and all the work done, does that include the midfield concourse? I don't hear any words about it. But I hear words now regarding a Bradley West terminal. Where did that come up? When did that come up? According to Gina Marie Lindsay, it came up 422. That will bring us right up to ribbon cutting time. But wasn't brought up before City Council. Well, you know what? Must have missed that. Must have missed that. Must have missed that. There was discussion regarding a bond sale to finance this. What about the bond that was offered by the city to the original $950 million, which coincidentally is the same amount of the bond that the LAWA sold? Only one bond? So that means there's $950 million mysteriously has disappeared for a bond sale. Another top-notch job done by the airport and the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Actually, we've gotten word from Councilmember Rosendahl that he'd like to ask a few questions on this, so can we hold this on the table?
Sure.
Okay, let's move to item 2. Maybe we should-
Item 2. Under item
Do we
2,
want to hold all the airport? You want me to hold all the airport items?
Well, that'd be
until-
probably, let's do the others first.
Okay, let's do
That's
the,
one
okay,
idea.
thank you.
that would be
Let's
item
do,
4.
4, yeah, let's do 4.
Okay, under item 4, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval the authorizing resolution to authorize the issuance of Harbor Department revenue bonds through negotiated or private sale amounting to $200 million to $300 million with a maximum term of 30 years. It would authorize the issuance of refunding revenue bonds through negotiated sale in an amount up to $550 million with a maximum term of 30 years. It would appoint a team of underwriting firms for the negotiated sale of bonds, and it would approve the principal financing documents, among other actions. The Chief Financial Officer's report and the City Administrative Officer's report have been submitted as required by the Charter and the Administrative Code, both recommending approval of the issuance of the bonds by negotiated sale. The team of underwriting firms to be used has been identified for the Council's review and approval. The Board of Harbor Commissioners has held a so-called TEFRA hearing as required by federal law.
Okay, so we've got 2 separate actions here. One is the sale of new revenue bonds for between $200 and $300 million, and a $550 million sale of refunded bonds. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so what are the revenue bonds going for?
We call those the new money bonds. The new
Right.
money bonds will be going to finance the current capital expenditures that are underway, as well as the new.
Which are what?
there's a, with respect to, for example, the waterfront, the design for China shipping, the design for Trade Pack, a lot of terminal type projects as well as community projects.
And how are they being, what's the revenue stream?
Well, the community projects tend not to have any revenue streams, whereas the terminal projects increases the acreage for the particular
Right.
terminal operator.
I thought revenue bonds had to be backed by a revenue stream.
These are just general, well, the revenue bonds for proprietary tend to mean not revenues from general obligation, but rather revenues, the bonds will be supported by the revenues generated by the port.
Right.
So even though the money will be spent for a capital expenditure that's for, let's say, that does not generate revenue, it's the whole revenue of the port that supports these bonds.
Right. And then the refunded bonds, are we trying to save money by,
We are absolutely trying to save money, yes.
and is this a good time to do that?
It is a good time to do that because under the ARRA Act, Tax Relief Act that the federal government recently passed, it allows us to buy back the old AMT bonds and replace them with non-AMT. So it allows us to issue
How much
new-
money will we save?
Well, the challenge is how many of those old bonds we can actually buy back. So if we've created several scenarios, but on a net present value basis, we're thinking we can actually save for the bonds that are actually being bought back anywhere from 6 to 9% per year.
When are we issuing these bonds?
We're trying to issue them at the end of this month.
And is the market's good for this? These are negotiated, though, right?
These are negotiated bonds. As you know, given the state of the industry, it takes a little bit of a storytelling
Right.
rather than so negotiated
Right.
works a little better than competitive. Right.
Right. And if it's not the right time,
Well,
we
it's
don't go to the market.
If it's
Something
not,
happens.
yes, correct.
Right.
Correct. But right
This is the
now,
advantage you get with negotiated.
correct. And also, right now, despite all the news that we hear, right now is a historically low period in terms of interest rates, so a reasonable time to borrow.
Revenues may be down, but
Revenues are down,
the
yes.
interest rates are down, too.
Interest rates are down, and of course, we're also trying to control our expenses too. So all those come
Right.
into play as well.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to this? Anybody else? No. Siobhan?
You're confident you're doing the right thing.
I am confident we are doing the right thing.
Thank you. I move.
Good. Well, we respect your, experience in this, and if you say this is the right time to do this, I'm looking at the projects that could be funded through this, and these are projects. The deepening of the main channel is something that we have been talking about lately.
Really?
Yeah. So that's on there, and now there's no price tags associated with these capital projects.
When you say price tags,
Well,
you mean-
there's no amount of money that's necessarily to what I'm looking at. I don't know if we had a more in-depth report. And the amount of money is with each project. Okay. I'm not looking at
I think I should also clarify that the amount that we're contemplating borrowing, $200 to $300 million. I mean, that's not to finance all of the projects that are
Right.
listed there. I mean, we also have cash flow from our revenue stream that will be put to bear on these projects.
And the main channel deepening, we were expecting federal funds for that as well.
We're hoping for that too. So there's a combination of sources for all of these projects, not only grant funding, but also the bond funding as well as our own cash flow. Correct.
Right. Okay. Well, any questions?
I'm okay.
Okay. You want to move to approve this?
I move.
Okay. So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Arnold, you're on. You have yours. I got you for item 4.
Well, my fears have heightened. You mentioned we. Who is issuing this bond? Is it going to be the Department of Harbor, another proprietary department, or will it be funded by the City Council or by the City of LA? And who's going to back the bond sales this gap between 200 million and 300 million. It's only $100 million, not too much. Could be anywhere in between there. Who's going to back it? There was a discussion at the California Area Governance Council regarding one of the members there talked about the Orange County toll road, and that if the bonds don't reach the limit, no public funding will be involved. No public won't have any fallout from it. So who'll back these bonds? And especially since it's a bond, and especially since the mantra of this city council is duplicity, will the city in turn around and issue a bond for the same amount of money, and then people will come back and say, well, we only issued one bond. Only one bond's been issued. And who will back it? According to what Councilman Rosendahl said, the airport bond that was issued by LAWA has to meet FAA regulations. Unfortunately, Councilman Rosendahl didn't say anything about the city bond that was issued and voted on by the city council. So we don't know what regulations those meet. So again, my concerns are who, what, where, how, and why.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, let's
Move forward.
move approval of this item. Good luck when you go to the market. We hope it is favorable.
This item is scheduled for council on Friday.
Please welcome Councilmember Bill Rosenthal out of gridlock and into City Hall. I know. Who's responsible for traffic in this city?
the other one, and then he can catch up on that one?
Huh?
One of the other ones that we haven't done yet, and then go back to that other one?
Okay, let's do item 3. Well, no, they're all airport, huh? Item 1, we'll go back to item 1.
Oh, good, thank you.
ready
We love
to-
them with their French toast. They're fabulous with French toast.
I make way Los Rancheros with mine. Okay, we're back to item 1. We asked some questions about this contract extension for Fentress.
Great. I have a few.
Okay, take it away.
Good morning.
We held it on the table for you.
When do we plan on breaking ground on the Bradley project?
We hope to break ground January of next year, and that depends on the completion of the final project level EIR.
Are we still on track for delivering the first phase of the Bradley project by January 2012?
That's our plan right now, yes, sir.
You got smiles on your face for this, or serious looks. I want to be sure that this new utility, central utility plant will meet our present and future utility needs. Obviously, it was sitting there for years, and somebody told me if we had blew a fuse, that whole place could have just, shut down. Will this new plant be enough to power LAX with a new Tom Bradley, a midfield terminal, and an automated people mover?
The plant will not provide electrical power. The plant provides heating and air conditioning. It will be sufficient to provide heating and air conditioning for the existing terminals as well as the new Tom Bradley terminal. It will not accommodate a new midfield satellite. After extensive planning, the decision was made to build a second local plant within the new midfield satellite, primarily because of transmission losses and higher energy costs trying to transmit chilled water and heated air all the way from the middle of the central terminal area to the west side of the airport for that new terminal. So there would be a new plant built along with the new midfield satellite when that building is built.
Sounds sensible. Many in my district are asking about, obviously, the status of other 5 Green Lane projects. Before I mention them, what is the status on those 3 Gulf links? Do we have an answer?
Unfortunately, I don't have the answer. I know we're negotiating a lease with the proposer. So
Could you have
we'll-
somebody get back to
Yes,
my
sir, I will.
office? It's a constant constituent.
Yes.
When is it done, Rosendahl? You've been talking about it for years now, which I have. So I'd like an answer on that. And then, of course, the other green lighted projects are the midfield terminal, the automated people mover, the consolidated rental, and the green line. Can you give us a quick status update of those other projects?
The midfield satellite we've done the programming and we're waiting to, when traffic rebounds and we need the new gates, we'll move forward on that. Right now, we have no scheduled date to start on that one.
And the people mover?
Okay. The people mover's the same way right now. We are working very closely with MTA on their plans to bring the Crenshaw line down, the green line in, as well as the gold line. So we're working with them on studies, but right now we have no plans on a breaking ground date.
No
on the
timetables at all on that?
No,
What
sir.
about the consolidated rental?
Consolidated rental car is being evaluated. As I think you're aware, we've recently completed a study looking at whether or not that should be relocated over to the Manchester Square area, and all indications seem to be that it would be. So it would be closer to the Regional Transportation Center when that's built. So that will probably get rolled into the specific plan amendment study process, looking at the total ground access plan moving forward for the airport. So.
And you mumbled a little bit about the Green Line. So the Green Line studying in connection with the MTA/Measure R, is that happening?
Yes, sir, it is. Yeah.
It is. So you feel pretty good we're on target with that, you think?
I'm not sure what the final plans are going to be on that because, again, we are looking at all of the light rail plans that MTA has right now coming in. So, but we are working very closely with them.
So when you take a deep breath now, when do you think the first project will be done, the Bradley Terminal?
Well, we anticipate the Bradley Terminal being done around late summer 2013, I believe, early.
For the full project.
For the full project. The north gate should be online January 2012. The south gates will be online, I believe, around August of 2012, and the full project will be done around midsummer of 2013.
Any more pressure about the big plane from, the giant ones?
Not at this point in time. We have sufficient gates right now to accommodate them. There's a 380 carriers meeting at LAX at the end of this month that I'll be at, where we will be hearing from the carriers on their delivery schedules.
Do you think this economic downturn has slowed them down too?
Yes, I believe it has.
It has.
Yes.
So their schedule is sort of loosey.
That's correct.
When we had that community meetings on the 340 acres and we're talking about the north side and all that master plan, at the same time I'm moving aggressively, hopefully with Otis, to see if something can happen there. We're obviously wanting those 3 holes in. There might be other projects. Do we have any sense of when the relationship between the planning of the city and LAWA and a sense of when we could get a master plan together?
On the north side plan, you mean? Yeah. I can get back to you on that. I'll have to talk to the planning
If we can
department.
get a sense of a timeline, we can get a sense of the community involvement. Community keeps asking me this over and over. Where are we? What are we doing? Here comes the
Councilman Mike Molina.
great Mike Molina.
I met yesterday with Steve Martin, our Chief Operating Officer, just on this subject, that now that we have,
That's right.
Yeah.
he's moved to the airport now and does a great job as our Chief Operating Officer.
He's a celebrity.
We talked about the fact that we've moved beyond this budget process. We've now identified that the funding is there and that the planning department is eager to get to work on these projects. All they need is a task order from us. We're generating that internally so that we can get the planner on board and work on the north side project in as quickly as possible.
Okay, because, Mike, from where I'm coming from, I don't want to do piecemeal, but I will do piecemeal if we don't get the master plan going.
Completely understood.
I want to get things done in my lifetime.
Completely understood. Speaking of your lifetime, can I just add a question about 5 minutes ago regarding the Westchester Golf Course?
Yeah.
Westchester Golf Course, we're just waiting through the final NEPA process of the public hearing. That should be finished at the end of June so that we can proceed accordingly. We do have, as Roger said, the lease that's being negotiated right now with the winning bidder, so that we are still hopeful that we see construction of holes before the end of the year.
Okay, because frankly, it was last November, December, then I was told it would be completely done by March, we'd be able to cut a ribbon by April. I've learned enough in 4 years that I've never seen a deadline met.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Amen.
So now, we're not looking at now, we're looking at when?
Well, we're looking at the NEPA process to be completed, the environmental process to be completed, which is a little bit out of our control. But the timeline that has been established shows that the public hearing process for the determination should be completed this month, and then we can move ahead with the awarding of the contract. And the first thing on the contractor's list is the 3 holes.
All right, so when can I cut a ribbon? I don't golf, but I'll pretend. I'll grab a little club and try to hit it into the hole or something.
We're hoping for a New Year's Eve ribbon cutting.
All right, you hear that, folks? Before
All right.
the end of the year. Okay, thank you.
So play at that
Wait,
golf.
New Year's Eve, what year?
Yeah, I know, really.
2009, sir.
Okay.
Janice, Tommy, and I
Why?
are going to play.
Yeah, people should be playing there now, though. Keep those scores low.
That's it. Real good
Thank you all
handicap.
very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. So are you comfortable?
No.
Okay.
That's like-
All right. Would you like to, let's vote to approve this
So moved.
contract amendment?
Thank you so much.
Okay? We'll move that forward.
Thanks for holding it.
Sure. Okay. We also held 2 for you.
Under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval the First Amendment to the contract with Pbsnj Construction Services for construction management services for the project entitled Security Program Inline Baggage Screening Systems North Terminals at LAX. The amendment would extend the existing contract term of 3 years by an additional 18 months to expire on December 18, 2010, allowing for the continuation of construction management services through the construction and closeout phases of the project. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of this contract amendment.
Okay, I like this one because this is an extension of 18 months and no additional funds are needed
That's
or
correct.
requested at this time. In fact, the original compensation authority for $13 million is much greater than now needed
That's
because of the construction of the inline baggage system in T1 and T2 has been canceled. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, when this contract...
Why were those projects canceled?
Well, I don't know if you recall, but we had 2 inline baggage programs at one time. We had what we called the North Inline and the South Inline, and at that time, the intent was for the airport to actually construct all of the inline baggage systems for all of the terminals
Right.
at LAX. That plan...
Well, only 3 is going forward.
Well, actually, 3 is going forward. We will be moving forward on 6 on the south side, and there are other ones. American Airlines is building their own. Southwest Airlines will be building their
Okay.
own. So right now, the only one that is under construction by the airport, besides Tom Bradley, which is going on as part of the modernization,
T3.
is T3.
Right. And how's 1 and 2 going? Are we in negotiations with those airlines?
T1 is actually Southwest is doing preliminary design on their inline system right
Okay.
now. T2 was initially going to be put in by Northwest with the acquisition of Northwest by Delta.
But originally, when we talked about this, or when we looked at other world-class airports, the idea of the system being, airport-wide
Right.
seemed to be the best thinking, that it would work better, it would be more cost-effective.
Well, I'll let Mark Visalia, who's the
Clearly not
project
doing that
manager
anymore.
on the inline project,
Sounds
but
kind of piecemeal.
the cost effectiveness is actually better going this way than it was doing it the other way. What the airlines are able to put these systems in significantly less than we can, than we've been putting them in. We are, however, because we're working closely with the TSA, who has to prove
Right.
everything.
And security, I thought we thought the security would be better, too, if we kind of did it all together. And
You want to respond to that, Mark?
Yeah. Mark Visalia, I'm the program manager for the inline program at Los Angeles World Airports. The program currently, as you understand, we are putting in 3 right now, and that's scheduled to be complete by the end of this year.
Right.
Tom Bradley also to have the system up and running.
Right.
With the other airlines, what ended up, the program was revamped because of costs mainly, and not having the funding source available for it. And the airlines were taking over the design and construction. They can do these projects a lot less expensive and more
Okay.
efficiently than
And
us.
TSA is okay with that?
TSA is
Absolutely.
okay with it.
Okay.
We are still coordinating, as a program manager, we are still coordinating with the airlines to make sure we have, as they develop their plans at TSA also, to make sure that they have consistency in their designs. They have to meet, there's
Right.
now an actual
Right.
standard by the
Right.
TSA.
Okay.
And
So they know this.
Yeah, and most likely, they will all be putting in the same basic type
What
of equipment.
control do we have over them in terms of their timelines?
As far as their timelines, we have very little control over them. Their biggest issues, candidly, say with American and others, is to get the CTX machines out of the lobby because they have a lack of lobby space. So
Right.
to a large degree, their timeline's dictated by passenger convenience. So they're, in some cases, in more of a hurry than we are to get these systems in.
Okay. And when is ours going to be done? It's T3, did you say?
T3 is scheduled, the inline portion, the system is scheduled to be running by October of this year, with final construction closeout and tie-ins complete by March of next year, so 2010. And then close out following after that.
Right. Everything takes so long. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple of quick ones. The original contract specified the project was eligible up to 75% reimbursement from TSA. How much of the $7.5 million are they going to pick up? Do you know?
75%.
So they are.
We have, yeah, we're still getting 75% reimbursement under our existing agreement with the TSA. There are, with this delay where we canceled the other portions and brought it onto the airline's responsibilities, our management has worked closely in government affairs with the federal government, and we're receiving additional funds for these airline projects.
Great.
Currently, we've received 2 agreements, grant basic agreements, with the TSA for $75 million more to fund these airlines projects, to assist in funding those, and we are in final negotiations for another $150 million from the TSA. So in essence, we will be receiving $225 million to fund the remainder of the inline from the TSA. The airlines will build it, we will assist and recoup the funds. So that's
Very good. Then it makes my second question kind of moot. It said that all 3 terminals is roughly supposed to have been $14 million, but we're spending $7.5 million on that one.
Yeah.
But the TSA is backing us up on all.
That's correct.
Yeah, yes.
So we don't have to worry. Okay, that's it. Thank you, sir.
Good. Commissioner LaBonge.
Yeah, just a technical question, just for protocol. Can I have this book?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay, let me ask you a question, another thing for protocol. I don't want to ask this here, but you list
me?
people over here, right? And I think you should list the other 12 members along with us, as long as you're listed. And I'm asking the CLA, is that right?
Yes.
To have a
Airport
protocol,
Commission, yeah.
protocol. I think they should list, on protocol reasons, I think you should list everybody in the governance, including the city attorney and the city controller. Just make a simple motion or whatever, because I see all this work. And you know why I say that? When I was young working here, I'd look at all these old books that they have and all these old stores, and I'd see all the old names of the people.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to be an old name of the people. And I hope my son does the same thing I did and go to the old bookstores and say, well, that was my dad, and he worked on Saturday. But he did make most of my games. Thank you. Okay. That's for you.
Thank you, for the record.
For the record.
For the record, he did make most of the games.
Yeah.
Enter that into the record. Okay, any other questions? Somebody would like to move to approve this item? Okay, without objection, we'll approve that item. Are we done? We do all of them?
No, we need to do item 3,
Okay.
Big
which,
A over here in that photo.
under item 3, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval a replacement non-exclusive air carrier operating permit for non-signatory air carriers operating at Ontario International Airport. The new permit would be effective from July 1, 2009 through June 30th, 2014. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of the replacement operating permit for non-signatories at Ontario.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Councilman Rosendahl, Councilman LaBonge. I'm Jess Rum. I'm the airport manager at LA, Ontario. The item before you today is a request to approve an operating agreement for the non-signatory carriers that use Ontario Airport. I'm here to answer any questions you may have on the item.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the item?
What are the non-signatory carriers?
Well, the list, there are
That's a good
13,
question.
there are 13 non-signatory carriers that were listed on the report.
PSA, Western, name them.
Well, no, those are all.
No, I'm teasing you. I'm following up on my last
Yes.
comments that I
Well,
made about
we've
this.
got two categories of non-signatory carriers. We've got the cargo carriers, Air Cargo Carriers, Air Transportation International LLC, Ameriflight Incorporated, Aero Air, Gulf and Caribbean Cargo, IFL Group, Kalita Air LLC. On the passenger side, we have Allegiant Air, ExpressJet Airlines, Great Lakes, Miami Air International, Ryanair International, Sierra Pacific Airlines. Of all the carriers that I just noted, the only one that has scheduled service is Great Lakes. The other ones are itinerant carriers. And one of the reasons that carriers opt to go with the ACOP is that they don't want to make the long-term commitment and be part of the signatory in terms of the use and lease agreement. Now, in exchange for that, they have to pay landing fees that are 25% higher than signatory carriers, and if they lease space in the terminals, they have to pay 10% more in the terminal rental charge.
Did you ever work out at LAX?
Yes, sir.
And where you live?
Claremont.
So that's good.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
that's good. I hope you, if you're living in Westchester, that'd be tough, like someone doesn't up there love you. The question I wanted to ask too, at Ontario, you have a lot of freight there, right? You have UPS and DHL and...
Well, right, yeah, we've got some of the itinerant cargo operators there. The two that are scheduled that have a major presence, obviously UPS, that's their Western region hub. They account for about 400,000 tons of cargo every year. FedEx to a lesser degree, probably.
Let me just ask a question. So at LAX, where's FedEx? Is UPS going to LAX at all?
They do, but their operation, my understanding, is quite small, unlike FedEx,
LAX.
which is, right.
But then FedEx has a big LAX operation?
Yes.
Would it make more sense that FedEx went into, if they, as their time goes on, as the Southern California region develops, would Ontario be able to handle that if they so choose, or?
From an infrastructure standpoint, the runways as well as available land, the answer is yes.
Right, but from an operational standpoint, that's their decision as a business.
That's correct.
We appreciate their business, but it's just one of the challenges of the day.
Yes.
Because one of the things people don't understand, a lot of times people say send all the freight to Ontario. You could do that if you're just a freight carrier, but much of the freight comes in integrated airplanes, correct?
Yes.
Of passengers and freight.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Hahn, I think we could approve this.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Labange. I think we can too. Any questions?
No, we agree with it,
Okay.
Mr. Labange.
Let's approve this. Okay, I have, is that it? Okay, then we have one member of the public that would like to address us under public comment. Arnold Sack.
Yay, Arnold.
Did you say yay, Arnold?
Yeah, I sure did. Thank you for your time and your
Oh,
attention.
we have, and we have Chuck Tennant too. Okay, let's go.
You need your haircut, though.
Yeah, I need them all cut. I'll lease some to you.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
All right.
Even though the city, the public in the city wisely rejected the proposal for the solar power, what's the status of the property at Palmdale Airport that was going to be used by the DWP as part of their solar initiative? I have here an article. Supervisor Antonovich tours East Solar Energy Plant in Lancaster. Lancaster being quite close to Palmdale. So, and the fact that there was discussions about negotiations between LAWA and the DWP. Why isn't the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee? I appreciate it. Can I bring a comic book too? Will you read that also? Why isn't the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee looking into that so that they can bring to the forefront blah, 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 blah. Bring to the forefront.
We're so sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern. The green initiative that the mayor so proudly heralds every time he gets up and yaps, and the city council also so proudly heralds every time they get up and yap. What is the status of that? Why don't you ask for an update on the negotiations between LAWA and DWP? We can look forward for your leadership, just as we got from running the LA Marathon.
You want it?
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Tennant. Good morning.
Good morning. Two things. I was at the Housing Committee, and it was interesting because they had a very big discussion about the Jordan Downs and Watts, the layered investment strategy, the 5-year plan.
Today?
Today. And they gave me the data that you can download it. They were showing that, and it was real interesting. And Tony Cardenas and Herb Wesson and Ed Reyes were very concerned about that, on how they're going to do that. But you might want to take a look at it, because I know it had the public housing redevelopment for Jordan Downs and green jobs and state bonds and partnership schools and gang reduction zone and summer night lights and the Blue Line rail and the neighborhood stabilization. But I'll make you a copy of this so you can get
Please.
that.
It's going to do everything.
Oh, yes, and they were,
It's gonna
they
do
were,
everything.
they had a long discussion on it,
Yeah.
and I know you weren't there, and I wanted to
Yeah,
bring that
thank
to
you.
your attention.
Thank you.
So I'll leave this here. And also,
Thank you.
also, the California Fair Political Practices Commission is doing a formal investigation against the MLPA because they're all outraged, and I mean a lot of people in the port of Los Angeles are signing petitions. They're charging the Schwarzenegger administration with conflict of interest and lack of transparency on something that's going to affect all of us. I know they're doing a lot of petitions on boating activities, commercial and recreational, in the port. I know I was there yesterday, and
You were at the port yesterday?
yes,
No.
I was down there and we were discussing that. Well, actually, I went fishing too.
Oh.
And they've all worked diligently to play by the rules, and this initiative is not. And nobody realizes it's going to affect Southern California, loss of revenue, loss of trade and tourism, loss of city taxes, loss of jobs, but now they're finding that there's some underhanded things going on, and people need to know that. And thank God that they're doing a formal investigation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. You found all that out while you were fishing?
Yeah. And yes.
Wow.
did that. And the people
How
of
many
the
fish
port.
did you catch?
I caught a nice big yellowtail.
Awesome. Okay,
Wow.
thank you, Chuck.
Did you eat it?
No, I gave it away.
Oh, well, at least somebody ate it. Good.
Good, somebody ate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And they want you to know the people at the port, they respect you a lot.
The fish said that?
No,
Oh.
the whole area, there was a building torn down there
Oh.
that they're supposed to build shops and whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
they love you.
Thank you for saying that, Chuck.
love
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wishing to address what's left of this committee? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.